Greetings and welcome, fellow Prog Noggins. This is Bleeding Edge. I am Dave. Thank you for joining me. So, if you were paying attention, you may have noticed a little while ago, I put out a video that was kind of a reaction/response video to Scot Lade of the Prog Corner. Go check out his channel if you haven't already. I'm thinking you found him before you found me, but who knows? Anyway, he put out a list of unpopular opinions about prog rock, mostly about prog. Technically, it was 9 out of 10 were prog specific. Um, and one of the most, if not the most controversial opinion he expressed in the course of that video of his was that Carl Palmer of Emerson, Lake and Palmer, of Asia, and those are the primary things, but other stuff, and that he was in fact saying he was an overrated drummer, that he had automatically kind of put him in the top 10 prog drummers of all time, but he was now questioning and recanting that opinion, expressing that he felt that Carl was definitely overrated, he was stiff, things like that. I questioned it a little bit, but it was one of those moments where I kind of had to say, you know, I need to inspect his body of work a little bit. I need to dig deep more into the ELP catalog and refresh my memory. It's been a while since I've listened to them extensively, and certainly at the times I did, I was not always necessarily listening for drums. And actually, the funny part is my favorite songs of Emerson, Lake and Palmer tend to have minimal to almost no percussion. You know, things like Still You Turn Me On, and From the Beginning. Yeah, not a lot of drumming. Certainly not a lot there to show off somebody's chops, and more tasteful and lightly supporting of the gentle melodies. So, figuring as part of that, what I'm going to do is actually going to be a little bit of two birds, one stone. Quite some time ago, I did a reaction video to a performance by Steve Smith, who is mostly known for his work with Journey, and who was secretly a jazz god as far as drummers go. He was incredibly, incredibly skilled. And I had said at that time, I meant to get back and maybe do some more drum solo reactions because I have a background as a drummer, a half-assed drummer at best as far as my skill level, but I've always been fascinated and I've always been attracted to the rhythm section for a lot of songs. So bassists and drummers tend to really stand out for me, though I love all instrumentation. But those are the ones that will draw my attention largely. So I figured this is a good time for me to get back to those drum solo reactions and take a little bit of time to dig into what Carl Palmer does and is capable of doing and see what I think, at least from this angle. I want to be clear. Solos do not equate with skill level and, ability when it comes to supporting and composing songs. Those are different things. So, if you take a drummer like, say, Stuart Copeland, for example, who wrote his drum parts more to support, enhance the composition of the overall song rather than to be a showy drummer. As a matter of fact, I'd almost have to look and see, does he do a lot in the way of drum solos ever? I don't actually know. He might. I'll have to look into that someday, but that's a tangent. I will return from the tangent. It's not geometry class. So in this case, I have actually dug up 4 performances by Carl Palmer. We won't go through every minute of all of them, mostly because one of them I think is not just him solo, but is mostly him solo, but it's 11 minutes long, and I don't want this to drag on forever. So I will edit that down to perhaps the highlights, and the rest of it we'll just see how it is. And I'll be curious to see what we get out of this, because again, my knowledge of him, I never got to see him perform live for various reasons, a lot of which my age versus timing versus when the band was functional. By the time I was old enough to go, ELP was past tense. By the time I might have wanted to see Asia, they were past tense for the most part. So anyway, let's dig into this. We're going to start with a video from 1970. I actually put them in chronological order because I am that obsessive in my organization at times. You'd be surprised to know that. But we're going to start with a performance from 1970. I forget what the exact title is. It should here pop up. It doesn't matter. So let's dig into this. Carl Palmer drumming live in solo for the most part. Interesting. What are we doing? I'm going to end up getting a little salty here because what the fuck are we doing? Who's editing this? What acid trip editor is putting this together? Can I just watch the drumming? We got all these flashes and circles and buildings and flames and I don't know. I don't know how or when this was edited. I find it frustrating because I want to see what he's doing in a wider view. I don't need the super close-ups. I don't need the seizure-inducing flashes and circles and all this crap. Come on, guys. Really? Just show me the drumming. I'm not sure what somebody's trying to do here, but I'm finding it annoying. If I have a seizure, I'll edit it out. There's no doubt he is massively talented. This is quite the impressive performance here. I might like a little more variety up at this point in time, and change the tempo and the speed, and maybe hit some other things. Well, now he's finally hitting the hi-hat as I say that. But yeah, holy smokes, of course. But this is about what I expected. There you go. Change it up. But let's keep in mind, we're 3 minutes in, and he's stayed mostly within a similar pace, similar tempo, sticking mostly with the bass, the snare, some cymbals in there. I'm fairly impressed with his energy 3 minutes in. He's still going full bore. So stamina, high marks. And with all that going on, he's sitting. Oh, here you go, change it up a bit. Okay. Okay, I've seen a lot of drum solos in my time. And I've seen them performed shirtless. I've seen them performed with shirts. This is the very first time I've actually watched somebody at least partially disrobe in the course of actually playing a drum solo. I gotta say, I'm reasonably impressed he kept the beat going with the feed while he was doing that. That's pretty cool. Seems a little showy. Seems a little unnecessarily showy. And then again, at the pace he's going and that much he must be sweating, maybe it is kind of necessary. I don't know. But sure, take your shirt off in the middle of something. Why not? As long as you keep the pants on. Change of pace. Nice to see him pull some other instrumentation into the solo. Where he got the mallets from, I don't know. I missed that one. The end of the shirt. Minutes in, dude, blasting, and wow. How coked up were you? That might be a necessary step. I should look that up. Carl Palmer never do coke. Maybe Mountain Dew? Alright, we're back to the... It's editing things. I just see what he's doing. I don't need your graphics. I don't know who thought that enhanced anything. It doesn't. Not even. Not for me. You're 7 minutes into. Is this really going 11 and a half minutes at this speed? With only a brief rest while you took your shirt off? Why are we on the highway? Watch the man play drums, please. He's not playing with his head. Can I watch the hands? Okay, hold on. So it's not fully 11 minutes by himself. His pace is still going a bit. Yeah, I guess maybe that. Keep what you do. Do you guys not have roadies? I am fairly certain the manual says do not lay under the organ. But I'm sure after this example, somebody somewhere had to add to the list of cautions, please do not lay under the organ while playing. And no, it's not a euphemism. Found it. Well, at least you're wearing, yeah, at least you're wearing weight belt, lifting belt. Came prepared. Did we really just stab the electric instrument with a metal knife? These guys had to be an insurance company nightmare with this shit. Dear God. I suppose this kind of antics are well known to people that were probably around at the time and are more familiar with Emerson, Lake and Palmer, but dude, come on. One, there's no way to treat your instrument. Two, if the owner's manual didn't already say don't lay under the electric instrument, the heavy electric instrument, it probably at least said do not stab it or poke it or insert it or insert metal instruments into it while it's plugged in. I'll take the shirt off. Yeah, stab it again. Go ahead. Freaking Norman Bates of keyboard players. All right, well, at this... insurance company had to be losing their mind with this crap. Everybody's crazy. I don't know what's going on here, but I feel like it's time to move on to the next video because we're not here for either Emerson or Lake. We are here for Palmer. So let's stick with Palmer. Good God. Okay. Next, we've got Toccata, 1974. Aquarius, 1974. Back with the guys. I think I'm going to go on record at this moment that I'm not especially fond of gongs in a rock drum solo or maybe even a jazz drum solo. I don't know. I feel like they slow the pace down a lot, and I have yet neither of these two videos to really hear them as clearly as I'd like to, but I don't know. Whatever. I will say I'm enjoying the variety of instrumentation in this particular piece. Ooh, did he just... Did they have the ability to trigger electronics back then? I feel like that's what I just saw happen. Tell you what, there are aspects of this that I feel very much I heard reflected in Neil Peart's solos later on, too. Little nugget of info there. I didn't see him do it again, but I get the impression that is part of him triggering electronic portions of the performance. Oh! I did not know we had the rotating set in 1974. See? Neil did not invent that. That's the other part about the gongs I don't like. They're blocking my view. First time I've seen somebody ring the bell with their mouth. Okay. The dude's going all out on this. Okay. Suitably impressed. Oh, there. Questioning my own vision there. Now, see, that's what I noticed was interesting on this one with the thumbnail, which made me very intrigued, was the fact that here we are. We just went back to back from Carl with the giant set, with the electronics, the spinning platform, the gongs, the bells, the dinner bell, whatever I want to call it, and all the trappings and all the big deal stuff. Here's the man with a single drum. See, that's someone who I think obviously has a great deal of confidence, and I'm going to hope a great deal of creativity, because he's got one instrument here to do something with. And it's comparatively brief, but this is, I believe, if I noted correctly, 15 years ago. So we are, again, moving forward in time, and this is more recent. amazing technique there, basically ricocheting off one stick onto the drum head. I don't think I've seen that before. Oh, that's cute. Double challenge. Keep playing the drum, don't drop the stick. And he's ambidextrous. It's easy to forget that the sticks themselves, it's not just hitting the drum, but it is also the sticks themselves that are, call them instruments. They are not just the equivalent of keys on a keyboard or not the word I'm looking for, valves on a wind instrument. They themselves contribute to the sound individually, not just their usage. All right, that was cool. That was cute. I'm going to take note here. We are now 2 more videos since the first one. And Carl has in fact remained completely dressed throughout the performances. So I gotta almost wonder, is the origination of the phrase "keep your shirt on"? Does that go with Carl Palmer? Somewhere along the line, somebody said, "Can you quit getting undressed while you're soloing?" All right, and here we go with the final video. This one is, I believe, from 2025. It's not showing me my title when I want to. That's annoying. Anyway. It's funny, in a thought of full circle, at least from my viewpoint, as I noted in those earlier videos in the early 70s, I was hearing aspects of his performance that I felt like were reflected in the Neil Peart performances I heard in later recordings by Rush. Now I'm hearing this, and especially what he's doing with the double bass, actually reminds me of things that I heard first. Well, I guess I always heard it first in Neil Peart, but this came afterwards chronologically, and now I almost feel like, is he reflecting back Neil Peart flourishes, techniques, or whatever you want to do? I don't know. A lot of this becomes very chicken and egg, and at some point in time, I'm sure they all feed into and feed back to one another. And let's be honest, at a certain point, one has done everything one can do with a set of drums, and you're almost certainly just going to repeat what has been heard elsewhere. And if you don't believe me, especially go find Neil's performance, the earliest drum solo of this kind that I heard in my lifetime. I don't have a lot of very distinct memories of when I first heard something, but I absolutely have a distinct memory of the first time I heard a Neil Peart drum solo in the back of an old Pinto on the way to the mall. I have a very distinct memory of that, and picking my jaw off the floor. But you go check out that from Exit Stage Left. And if you want to find his very prominent performance in Frankfurt, Germany, I forget the exact year and title and all that stuff, but that one has been a frequent focus of other reaction videos to drum solos. Go find that. Neil crafts what is very much not just a solo. He's not just doing random stuff. He has written a song that he performs note for note, night after night, which just blows my mind. review. This is a year ago. Maybe not even. I'm almost certain this said 2025. How old is Carl at this point? Gotta be 70. This isn't just impressive on a drumming level. This is impressive given his age, that he's still able to do this. I mean, Neil was experiencing tendonitis by this point, before this point. That's pretty cool. That to me feels like very much a Carl Palmer signature move at this point in time, at least in the last 15 years. I didn't see that in his earliest stuff, but especially the single drum performance and what we're seeing here, where he uses the sticks themselves as instruments without including the drums, but how he uses every part of the drum in the solo. Oh, here we go. Not taking the shirt off this time, eh, Carl? Bass drums going with the beat, you pulled out the mallet, you hit the gong, but we're leaving the shirt on. Not feeling as confident in the 70s. Or again, somebody say keep the shirt on. Sure, just throw the sticks. Don't treat your instruments. Somebody's hitting there. Is electronic head? Some other surface? I don't know. Cool though. Must be electronic. Okay. Getting all the sounds from it. Pretty cool. Camera angle could get this in. I can't see what he's doing. I can hear it. Get out of the way. Down in front. I hear a little fanfare for the common man in here now. Got it. Oh, I thought this was all Carl. It would seem what we have here is we have reached the end of the Carl Palmer solo. Glad to see live performers there, not holograms as I heard. So. Cool stuff though, and deeply impressive, especially given how long he's been doing this. Good for him if he does not have the tendonitis that I understand Neil suffered from, because I'm fairly certain, given when Rush retired, that Neil was not going to be doing this up to this age, at least not very frequently. And maybe not long extended solos. That was a good solid 4.5, 5 minutes of it just Carl. So nice. Right. So again, I will reiterate the idea that I recognize that soloing is not the same as composition, nor is it the same as supporting a song and being part of a band. So those are different skill sets. Those are different ways of approaching the instrument. I am going to say, oh my goodness, Carl Palmer's a beast. Was there really any doubt on my part? No, not really, but I hadn't heard it or seen it or witnessed it myself. He's got that reputation. like Scott, I kind of reflexively took it as legit. And man, like how good do you have to be to push somebody out of the top 10? Uh, this day and age, though, there's so many players. And I think that's the big question. When one makes that statement about him being the top 10 in the top 10 prog drummers of all time, are we talking about among his contemporaries in the 60s and 70s? He'd almost have to be because the pool was much more limited then. He'd almost have to be. There's a reason he has the influence and the reputation he does. If we look at it in terms of all time, and now we are expanding to nearly 60 years worth of progressive rock music, and we start having to include the likes of Danny Carey and Gavin Harrison and Mike Portnoy and Marco Miniman, you know, you could very well argue that at some point in time he gets pushed out of the top 10, but not by far. And again, at some point in time, the skill sets and the skill levels are so top notch, and the differences between them, the space, the gaps between them in terms of overall skill that, obviously it's not sure it's possible to truly measure that objectively, but they're all so close that it almost doesn't make a difference. You could list 30 of them and go, oh, well, he's only in the top 30 or he's only in the top 20. But at that point in time, you could pick any one of them for any project you wanted to do, and it doesn't make a difference. The only difference that might come out there is style, and that's about it. So, can a lot of these guys now do everything he can do? Probably, almost certainly. Can he do everything they can do? Probably, almost certainly. like, and you take into account how recent that the most recent video was. That's like within the last year, pretty much. I forget if there was an exact date on it or not. I'm almost certain I saw 2025. YouTube wasn't kind enough in that particular window to show that to me. So I'm going on memory, and take your chances with that. So here's what I would say. I'm going to say Scott is both right and wrong. And it depends on a lot of things. Context, as always, is important. Context is key. I'm going to go ahead and say if we were only talking up into the end of the 70s, up from the 60s and 70s, Prog or otherwise, I'm going to have to go with Carl Palmer's in the top 10. And to a large degree, that is influenced by the fact that I don't know every other single person out there who, at that point in time, that juncture in history, might have been ranked ahead of him, or at least equal with him. So, names come to mind if we're talking just Prog and Prog-oriented stuff. Depends where you put Zappa. You got Phil Collins, you've got Bill Bruford, you got Neil Peart, you've got Alan White, you've got Terry Bozzio, however you say it. If you expand beyond just Prog, then you've got John Bonham, you've got Keith Moon, you've got I'm going to blank on his name now. Buddy Rich. There we go. You've got Buddy Rich. There are people out there that argue about Ringo Starr belonging in there. I don't put Ringo Starr in that group, but I recognize obviously he probably influenced almost every single one of those players except Buddy Rich, who influenced everybody. So, just in that brief review, I could probably pull out, we're forgetting Ginger Baker, if you're going again outside of Prog. Yeah, so I could very quickly name 8, 9 other people. So some of it then comes down to taste, but I think it's pretty easy in the world of Prog if you limit it to that to keep him in the top 10 in the 70s. If you go all time, then again, you're adding Harrison, Carey, Miniman, Ian Mosley, often overlooked. Ray Hearn of Haken, I think, is fantastic. And of course, Portnoy and Mangini, who filled in, although I don't necessarily consider him Prog, except for that period of time he played for Dream Theater. He's mostly been known for metal. And then I'm certain there are other names that I'm forgetting too. Dude from Blink 182 is reputed to be fantastic. I can't speak from direct witness whether he is or isn't, but there are a lot of names that come up, and it depends on whether you include Prog or you expand beyond that. So Is there every potential that at some point in time, there are people that favor some of these folks ahead of him and would push him out of the top 10 or top 20 or top 30? Yes, absolutely. Is it possible that because they're all so close, it really comes down to just a matter of taste and style of what you're looking for in a drummer? Yes, he could vary widely from each individual thing. Is his name going to come up a lot? You better believe it. His name is going to come up at least in the discussion a lot, if not actually in the top 10 list of anybody creating the top 10 list. So yes, I have taken the very firm stance that Scott is both right and wrong. I am I am sitting on the fence, which, as Alan Parsons once said, can make you a pain in the ass. And so I'm going to be a little bit of a pain in the ass. At some point in time, I feel like I'm going to need to create my own top 10 list and see whether or not I'm going to put him in there. But based solely on those performances, the man's fantastic. And I appreciate his creativity. I appreciate the fact that he uses every part of the instrument, including just the sticks at times. He is not just hitting things with sticks. He is hitting sticks on sticks. Some really creative stuff there. He took advantage of a single drum and used every single part of it, every single part of the sticks. He did creative things bouncing off one stick of another, playing a ricochet thing. I've not ever seen anybody do that before. The man's damn good, and he still brings it. So, I would say, if I want to get off my fence for a little bit, I think we are going to have to go back and probably say, Scott, I probably have to disagree. I don't know that he's overrated. And I don't know that he's vastly overrated. And based on what I'm seeing there, no, I don't know that I agree that he was over his head in Emerson, Lake, and Palmer. Though, at some point in time, I'm going to have to go back and listen to the body of work with them as a band and probably make some sort of decision as to exactly how well I felt he fit the band and how well his performances supported the work of the other two guys in his trio. So that in and of itself is another discussion for another day. As of now, I am going to wrap from here. Hey, don't forget too, if you want to check out that video where I respond to Scott, or if you want to just check out Scott's video, you'll find the link to Scott's video in my video. You can probably find your way to my video from here, but check out Scott, see what he's doing. Feel free to subscribe. I'd appreciate you coming along for the ride. If you appreciate what I'm doing here, it could be a lot of fun. And hey, take a moment. Give it a like. If you got this far, throw a like up there. Come on. Doesn't hurt you. It'd make me feel good. And don't you want to make somebody feel good? I bet you do. So that's all I've got for now. So until next time, hang loose. Never fear to deviate from the norm. And keep it prog.